I saw fuel coming and I didn't know whether to stay or run.
Yeah.
You know, it was pouring out. I didn't know if the plane was going to blow up or what was going to happen.
Knowing that we may not have ever had a chance to get back to them.
Losing a friend was hard, and watching a person die is very difficult. I'm Desi Burrell.
I'm Curt Birchell.
And I'm Steve Burrell.
And this is our story. It started on September 5th, 1988. We were over playing softball in Sitka at what we call the mud ball, and it's typically named that because it's really bad weather, lots of rain, very muddy. And for once, the Petersburg team was not in the championship. Kind of shocking, I know, but we were all kind of gathered around a fence watching the final, I think it was the men's game, and someone come running in and said, Wrangler's here, we need to go, the weather is deteriorating, so everybody get your stuff and we'll head to the airport. So because we have to fly from Petersburg to Sitka to play in this tournament, we typically take a small plane to do that, and we've been doing that for many years. So we got to the airport. I was really nervous about the weather, and I was questioning the pilot about, you're not going to go through the pass, are you? It's pretty lousy. And he said, oh yeah, I just went through there and it wasn't bad at all. Looks fine. So Steve and I are walking up to the two planes that were waiting for us, and there was this big yellow plane that to me looked kind of rickety. And I said to Steve, I don't like that plane. He goes, no, it's a good plane. It's got 2 engines. And I said, no, I don't like it. It just doesn't look right. But we ended up getting in that plane and took off and flying. I don't know how long we'd been flying. It was quite some time.
We flew back into a canyon to go through to Gut Bay, and it had socked in where we couldn't get through there, so we turned around and flew us back out, and then turned up the valley. It goes up by Indigo Lake and Cross Mountain. Lots of turbulence, and as we're going up, we look out the window and here are rock croppings probably 50, 60 feet off the wingtips, and the airplane was climbing very slow. It was, I would say it was almost stalled, and we could see that we weren't going to make it over the mountain ahead of us.
I was in my seat, and I remember seeing the mountain straight ahead, and I was trying to, use my body to lift that plane to get over the mountain. And I had someone in front of me that was a friend that was a little overweight, so I was teasing him about the fact that I was going to have cushioning if we did crash. So I was trying to make jest of what was a very unnerving situation.
Yeah, the mountain came pretty quick, as I remember, and knowing that we weren't going to get up over the top, I kind of just tried to brace myself as best possible. Of course, after we hit, I think everybody was in complete shock. And then knowing that I was still here, I was probably one of the only people that could get out on his own. So I did. I jumped out of the plane through, I believe, where Desi was sitting.
The door blew off,
Right.
and our seat broke loose, and she slid out into the snow as the plane was, where the plane hit, and then it slid up through the snow on the mountainside. And so when it stopped, I was kind of on top of her, and I saw fuel coming and I didn't know whether to stay or run.
Yeah.
You know, it was pouring out. I didn't know if the plane was going to blow up or what was going to happen.
And I did run. I ran probably a good 100 yards just to look around and try to figure out our surroundings more than afraid of the plane blowing up or something else happening, catching on fire or whatever. And then seeing Steve, and I could hear other people in the plane still, so I took off running back to the plane and saw that Desi was kind of hanging out of the plane a little bit. Did we actually have to lift the plane off of you?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
I think
It was
adrenaline.
Kurt and
Yeah.
Ray and myself. And
Did Ray help?
yeah, Ray was pushing too. Everybody that could get out of the plane picked the
Right.
tail up, and Debbie had pulled you out from underneath the plane.
Yeah, I remember that. It's weird because you have this like time in my head that I don't remember. From the time seeing that mountain and thinking we're going to make it over, to me sliding through the snow and trying to protect my face from ice that was like chips of ice and, you know, hitting me and dragging. It was just like this weird feeling, and then everything stopped and it was so quiet.
Yeah.
There was no engine sound, and I've got my leg laying under the plane, and I see my husband who wants to run because he sees fuel, and I'm like, you know,
Yeah,
he doesn't
it
know what
was-
to do. I mean, there was just,
Definitely some panic going on there. You just didn't know what was going to happen. You know, I had my extra tufts on because we came straight from the field, so I had my full uniform and extra tufts. So when I got out, there was plenty of area up there to roam around and see exactly where we were and how we were going to get out of there.
well, first of all, I remember doing Lamaze breathing to try to deal with the pain. And then I remember the efforts. I don't have a lot of recollection of the efforts you guys did to get me out of there, but I think you were talking a little bit about digging down or digging the snow out
Right.
from around my leg, or
And then it was just adrenaline kicked in, and we just lifted that damn tail up and got you out.
Yeah.
that was a big plane too. That was a 10,
Yeah.
10-seater,
Yeah.
heavy, big. It's not like these sleek little jets that fly around. It felt like a beast, and I think about that with the three of you lifting and Debbie pulling me out. But
Yeah, it was.
And then we got everyone out of the plane and sitting up on the snow. Then we had to take care of the pilot. When the nose hit, it actually threw him out into the snow. And we got him up and was talking with him, and he was telling us to lay him on his side because he could feel his lungs filling up.
His
Yeah.
leg was badly
His leg was,
broken, too.
yeah, his leg was broke, and
Yeah.
yeah, he was in
He
bad
was beat
shape.
up pretty
yeah,
good.
Yeah, Steve was in the front of the plane, and he was having a rough go in there, so we got him out of the plane. But we couldn't get his mother out of the plane. She was trapped
when you
from
say his mother, you mean Kurt's mother?
Yeah.
Kurt's mother. Yeah,
Right.
Kurt's mother. The wing had her trapped in there, and we couldn't get her out, so she was stuck in there.
I remember your
But
dad walking around.
Larry
I think.
got out.
He finally got out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
he
I
was
remember
out.
he was getting things out of the suitcases to cover us because we were so extremely cold. I've never shivered that hard in my life I'm just literally, you just can't even take a breath because you're just,
Yeah.
it was blowing probably 40 mixed snow and rain. I don't know what the temperature was.
Yeah.
It
Sitting on
was-
that ice and,
Yeah. I didn't have a coat or anything, just my
Oh my
uniform and
gosh.
some boots. So, yeah, it was, and I don't think anybody was dressed for the weather.
no.
So, yeah, it was cold. Just being in shock makes you cold. So,
So the elevation was what, 3,000 feet or?
I'm thinking somewhere around there.
Yeah. So, I mean,
more.
think about, I mean, I was thinking how cold it was on the ground when we were sitting at the ball games. And, you know, it was blowing and raining and nasty. And then up there where, you know, you've got that snow
Yeah.
coming mixed with the rain and the wind. Oh,
As I was going around tending to everybody and you know, and trying to take care of Desi, I'd mentioned that there was an ELT on the plane, an emergency locator beacon, and the pilot heard me, and he said, "You have to get in the back and make sure it's on." And it was just like shutting your eyes and sticking my head into the tail of the plane. It was
I remember that.
pitch black. I got back there and I was feeling around. I thought it'd probably be on the floor or in the back there, but I couldn't find it. So I got back out, and then he asked me, "Did you find it?" And I said, "No." I said, "I can't find it. I don't know where." And then he told me where it was located. It was on the side of the plane. So I went back in, felt around, and found it, and pulled it out, and it was off. So there was it wasn't transmitting. So we turned it on, and then it was a manual and an auto. So we turned it on manual and pulled a little antenna out and had it outside the plane. And then within a few minutes, we heard a jet fly over. And we were all kind of like, you know, "Do you hear that plane?" And, you know, we were kind of got a little bit excited. It wasn't very long after that, we could hear a helicopter.
I remember that, hearing that jet and thinking there was hope.
Yeah.
Like we were just like, there's a jet, you think they see us. It was, you know, it was something you're just holding on to, that they're gonna find us, because at this point, we've been down quite a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say at
How
least
long do
an
you
hour.
think before the helicopter showed up?
Hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when the helicopter started coming, I could hear them for a long time before they actually found us. So, and they were flying really slow. I mean, they were combing the area pretty well.
You remember when he flew in and he flew back into that Indigo Lake, and we're going, you know, we're over here, you know, because we could see him.
Yeah.
And he flew back in there. Well, he was trying to see where the signal was coming from because it was so loud in the valley. He couldn't pinpoint where it was. So when he flew into the Indigo Lake and got in behind a mountain, then it died. And then when he come back out around, then it started booming again. So then pretty soon he just started climbing up the hill. And we were all standing on the edge waving at him. And I think he was pretty shocked to see anybody alive.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that. You know, coming up that helicopter and seeing eyes
Right.
of people standing, and whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arnie Johnson just got a soft spot in my heart. That first helicopter was a good feeling. Yeah.
Do you remember who got on the helicopter the first
Me
time?
and Christy and Ray.
You three?
Mhm.
Huh.
But here's the deal. I don't remember getting on the helicopter. I don't know how I got on there. I just remember being in so much pain. I don't know if you guys carried me and put me on.
Yeah, we carried you over there. We carried you over and put you in the helicopter. He wanted to take the pilot too, but he didn't have a stretcher. He couldn't, so that's why you and Ray and, was it Christy?
I thought it was Christy.
Yeah, I think it
I
was.
was pretty sure it was Christy.
And went out on the first flight, and then he picked up the pilot and he brought EMTs back that time. He brought 2 or 3 EMTs, and one EMT went down to his Curt's mother and was helping her. About the time that the chopper showed up, we were thinking about putting people back in the plane, you know, to get out of the wind and the rain, because it had been such a long time that we didn't know if they were coming at all. You know, we were just hoping that they heard that ELT was working. So
Yeah, we didn't have any cover because everybody was so afraid of what was going to happen to the plane,
Yeah,
that we drug everybody out and we were out in the snow.
yeah. That's the reason why it didn't explode or catch on fire, is because the temperature was down in the lower 30s and wasn't so flammable.
Do you remember Steve's watch stopped on impact? He had one of those fossil watches that had the crystal point, and it stopped on impact at 12 something. I didn't think I would ever forget the time, but that's exactly when we hit. You know, that was the indicator of
Right.
when we went down. So when we got rescued, I don't know. It would be interesting to know what that time frame was, because it felt like a really long time. It felt like it was starting to get dim, and you know, darkness was setting in, and at this point we didn't have anybody coming to rescue us, and we didn't know where.
I'm sure it's on file when they found us. It'd be nice to know actually how long we were there.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a while.
I think we were out of there, off the mountain by 3:30. Larry was on the plane too.
My dad.
On the Coast Guard helicopter as we were coming out, and that was pretty traumatic there. We thought we were going to lose her, and they kept her going, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shirley was. She was there a long time, waiting for that help. But we're grateful that we can be here and be survivors, because my understanding in that area across mountain, there's never been survivors before. So, you know, I just keep thinking it just wasn't our time.
Yeah.
And you know, I think of your brother Eddie, who was going to be sitting in the co-pilot seat where I would typically sit, but Steve flew with me for the first time to a softball tournament and didn't sit there. And you know, there's just those things that just kind of wake you up and go, wow, I got to live a life worth living now. You know, I was given another opportunity to, you know, you just don't survive plane crashes that often, especially at a 3,000-foot rock mountain.
Yeah. We can't explain why nine of us survived it.
Yeah.
We're sure happy we did.
Yeah. Losing a friend was hard, and watching a person die is very difficult. That was a painful time for me, as he was at my feet, and I would say most of my counseling and things that have pulled me through were dealing with that. It's always hard to watch someone die. I remember his wife telling me that from the autopsy report that even if he'd been in front of Harborview, he wouldn't have survived. And that gave me some peace to know that, you know, that anything that we did or didn't do wouldn't have changed it for him. And so, but hard, really hard. I spent 3 weeks in the Sitka hospital before they sent me to Seattle, where I spent another 2 months. And Steve needed to be home with our children, who were 7 and 9 years old. And so I did a lot of that by myself in the Seattle hospitals, in a lot of pain, because I had a severe rotating crush break with nerve, muscle, and tissue damage that added to, you know, an incredible amount of pain. So I guess for me, I was holding on to a lot of anger because I didn't get any counseling when I was in the hospital, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and I was away from my family and my friends, and but if you read, you know, the article, I thought I was going to be back playing softball in 6 weeks, because I kind of have that kind of positive mindset of, oh, I have a broken leg, and you know, here it is 35 years later, and I just had, well, my 22nd surgery. However, not all of those were airplane related, but I would say the last one I had in August was a still continuation, which probably I think makes about 14 now. So 35 years later, you know, with a lot of different contraptions to get me by.
And Steve, you're home with the kids?
I'm home with the kids, and
How did the kids deal with that time? How
they were missing their mom a lot, you know, and we tried to get them to Seattle once to see her, and but we were, you know, I was so busy taking care of them, which was a real it was a real turnaround. I mean, I'm there, but I never took care of them like she took care of them, and getting them to school and cooking the dinners and doing all that the whole time. So I never thought much about it after, you know. There was really nobody to talk to about it anyways. So that time went fast, you know.
Well, you know, my girls were only 2 and 3 or 1 and 2, and we had left them with my wife's folks for us to go over there and play ball. They had lived right across the street, so knowing that we may not have ever had a chance to get back to them, I think that's one of the hardest parts about reliving this whole thing, is what could have happened.
Yeah.
How's your mom?
She's doing good. She's never really recovered from the whole thing, but well, she's what, 85, 86 now, and still plugging away.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the hardest things for me, is just having to relive the whole thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Losing Steve, and
Makes me look at life different, you know, and it gives me a grateful heart. And I wonder where our lives would have gone without this experience. I don't know. You know, I think it's just one of those things that is life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing. And to go through it with your friends and your community, and know the love and support you get from people, and I don't know, gives you, I feel grateful.
yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to look at that and say, you know, and it is, it's pilot error.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he made a decision at the last minute that probably saved the lives of 9 of you know. And so, you know, is there any resentment? Is there anything that makes you go, you know, because you guys lost a friend?
I was angry at him, but just like you're saying, I knew he saved us.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he turned the plane in there, because we were going to all die if we'd have flew up straight ahead into the mountain, or if he'd have turned out to the left, it was straight down, and the plane was almost stalled. I mean, it was hanging on its props, and we'd have probably just tumbled down the mountain. It would have just fell down into the mountain. But at the last moment, he turned it in there to that snow patch, and he did save us. So, yeah, I've thought about that quite a few times.
I guess, you know, I have still a little bit of anger about the fact that he got us in that situation. But I don't hold on to anger, because that just makes you bitter and sick, honestly. So I think for me, it was pretty life-changing to go from 29 years old, in the prime of my life, in my work life, in my athletic life, to to have all that stopped in that moment where I never really could get back to that. So you have to make a decision to change. And I think that's the one thing that I probably have learned through this, that change is okay. And sometimes we just have to do it to move on. And I mean, it's given me a good life, one that I was not expecting, but I'm not going to say I'm mad or angry about it. I just moved on, and I think you just need to find things that you enjoy, and if you don't enjoy it, don't do it, because you just got to live each day to the fullest, honestly.
Sort of change your path.
Yeah.
The path you took.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
became a magistrate.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
You think that would be attributed to?
of course. Yeah, because, yeah, I mean, I was working in the construction industry.
And then don't forget about your kids'
Oh, and then I
store.
bought a kid store, but that was after the plane crash
Yeah.
because I couldn't do the construction business, so I bought a retail store. In fact, my first job was working for your folks, and I like customer service, and I like helping people, and that was a good 10 years for me. I enjoyed that, and then the opportunity with the courts came open, and I like to learn, and so it was a good life. Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you never had to put up with me.
We grew up a little bit.
Yeah.
Only when I was umping games.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Good, good.
We got it. Awesome.
Okay.